All right. I hit the live button, so that must mean we're live. Uh,
I'd
what's
assume.
up? What's up? How we doing?
I am tired as hell,
Yeah.
but I've got
Yeah.
a lot of March Madness to watch. I haven't slept in like over 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
I
You
know.
were that excited for March Madness, I guess.
Yet I was just dying to watch it. Um, I have on Auburn and Iowa, which I think is what you have on too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a 9-point game right now. So, yeah, March Madness has pretty much taken over the week, but the NFL did happen, of course, because it always does. There's always a trade. There's always a huge signing. There's always drama. You know, it's just the gift that keeps on giving if you're an NFL fan. And with free agency, you know, we're gonna have a lot to discuss. Guys, be sure to drop any sort of comments, questions, concerns, all of that jazz in the comments section, and we will get to that. We will literally highlight it on the show. But yeah, so Aaron Rodgers. we started off last week, Alexis, with Aaron Rodgers. Now we know Aaron Rodgers is going to the Jets. So there's no more
Is he?
wondering, or it's going to happen.
Sorry, your mic cut out. What'd you say?
Aaron Rodgers is definitely going to the Jets at this point.
I mean, I think he is too, but I think it would be hilarious if the Packers just did not relent in their wish for their trade demands and he just got stuck in Green Bay. I would love to see it, but they obviously are going to relent because the Packers don't want Aaron Rodgers anyway, so they have no reason to like really play hardball. At the end of the day, I think the Packers are going to take the lesser offer, whatever they can get, they're going to take and then walk away.
Absolutely. I think they're going to trade him. But let's play some conspiracy theory here. Ready? Jimmy Garoppolo showed up but did not take his presser today, and everyone is freaking out because he apparently didn't sign the contract yet. So everyone's like, "Oh, well, what if like something fell through?"
Well,
could you imagine that?
The situation that I could see, and I don't think this is the case, I could see the Packers were like, no, like we are taking X, like to the Jets, right? And the Jets aren't going to do it. If the Raiders are like, well, we'll give you the picks, right?
Yeah.
Because Aaron Rodgers is at the mercy of the Packers. I think people are forgetting that. Like the Packers really decide where he does and doesn't go because he's still under contract with them. So I could have foreseen a situation where the Raiders get wind that Aaron Rodgers is available, and then they go to Jimmy and they're like, okay, hold on.
The weird thing is
not be interested anymore.
he doesn't have a no trade clause. Like Aaron Donald of the Rams has a no trade clause.
Right, Aaron Rodgers doesn't.
Stars do, but he does not. I'm seeing it right now. He does not have a no trade clause. That's bizarre.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. He's literally at the mercy of the Packers. The Packers can do whatever they want with Aaron Rodgers in his contract. And that's, I think, why the deal that Aaron wants isn't done yet, because if the Packers don't get the minimum of what they want from the Jets, they're not going to do it. They don't have to. The only reason why I think they would is, like I said earlier, the word, like the Packers are ready to move on. Like that bridge has kind of like burned between them and Aaron. So I don't foresee a situation where it would be beneficial for the Packers to just hold on to him and force him to play. But they might. I don't think that would happen, but
Yeah. I mean, I think the Jets are at the point where they're a little desperate because their backup plan was Derek Carr. Derek Carr's with the Saints. Their backup plan was Jimmy Garoppolo. So if the Jimmy Garoppolo thing fell through, then I mean, maybe, the Packers turn around and trade him to the Raiders. But then at that point, I don't know how the semantics work on that, because Rodgers was 90% sure he was retiring when he went into that like weird retreat thing.
I don't believe that that's the case, but yeah, that's what he says.
Yeah, that's what he said. So if that is the case, then I would imagine he would just up and retire if he got traded to the Raiders. And I don't know how much money he'd be leaving on the table. I don't know the whole thing about that. But yeah, well, I think he would just retire straight up.
I mean, maybe not. It's all about the Packers, getting what they want, because they hold all the cards. So like I said, I very well, and I don't know that Aaron Rodgers would retire if he goes to the Raiders. I will say the Raiders have actually had a somewhat decent offseason, and Devontae Adams is there. I don't think it's Rodgers' preferred choice. But then again, it's like Aaron Rodgers. Like, he could have been wanting to go to the Raiders this whole time and is using this Jets situation to, like, screw with the Packers. Like, he's just got so many, things that he does to deceive people and get attention. We've talked about this. So, like, I wouldn't even put it past him if he, like, have wanted the Raiders the whole time and then comes out saying he wants to go to the Jets, knowing the Packers would get upset because they know that the Jets won't give him what he wants, which will make them go to the Raiders. Like, it's just all annoying, and I cannot wait for it to be over. I cannot wait.
I don't think if you were to poll every NFL fan in the world, I think 40% of them, maybe 30%, but like maybe 40% would say they're not sold that Rodgers is even going to go to the Jets. Like, it feels like, I feel like it's done. Like, I feel like it's a done deal, and it's just a matter of getting down to the nitty gritty and figuring out a way that works for both sides. But there are still, I see it all over Twitter and whatnot. There are people that are not 100% sold that, like, kind of like you. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, maybe he used this as a play,
I don't think it's over until he literally steps on the football field. Like, knowing him, like, he could literally go to the Jets, and I still won't be convinced that he will start for the Jets that season until game 1 of the regular season. Because that's kind of, I feel like, the thing that he's kind of given everybody now, this, like, cautious, like, kind of like cringe, like, whatever. Like, once game 1 starts, then I will believe that he is the quarterback for the New York Jets. Until then, I don't care what he signs. I don't care what he does. I'm not buying it. I think he's just put himself in a situation where, like, people don't really trust what he says anymore. But I would hope he wouldn't fuck over the Jets like that. He might.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. You're right. I mean, I would hope not, because that would somebody who covers the Jets, that would suck. You go from covering him with Aaron Rodgers to I don't even know who's going to be the quarterback. Zach Wilson? Probably not. No, it wouldn't happen.
Do you think Zach Wilson is even going to stay with the Jets at this point?
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to have him be the backup? I kind of think so too.
I think Rodgers was one of the only ways that was possible. And I mean, he's such a big fan of Rodgers that I think he'll look as a learning opportunity. And I think Rodgers would be good for him. I mean, just getting that guy in front of him that not like Mike White. Like, Mike White had a few games, but how much better is Mike White than Zach Wilson? You could say a lot better, but I would say you're probably wrong. Rodgers is a lot better. You can learn stuff from Rodgers. So I think it makes sense for Wilson personally. What's up, Paul? How we doing? Appreciate you, Exotic, for being in here. Fire Sneed now. Oh, man. Coming out of the gates there, CJ. Appreciate you, Dominic. What's up? Send Rodgers to the Texans. Imagine the Jets not landing Rodgers and being stuck with Allen Lazard. I like Lazard, but obviously they signed him because Rodgers is going to go there, and Rodgers wanted him, not because they wanted Allen Lazard. Weird considering he is an all-time great. That's true. It is really weird that he doesn't have a no-trade clause. And honestly,
I think yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I would. Maybe it's not that weird. Maybe it's an ego play. Like, I don't even need a no-trade clause because I'm that powerful. You're not even going to trade me.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking because, like, remember when he signed that deal, it was not a team-friendly deal.
No.
So
that deal was a begging.
Well, it was basically, I could have seen the Packers being like, you know what, if you're demanding this much money, then you're not getting the no-trade clause because we are not about to be in a bad situation.
Yeah, and I wouldn't blame him for that because it is a really hard deal to, like, kind of orchestrate your entire team around, honestly.
Well, and that's probably why also, like, if you go kind of to the theory that what Aaron says is that the numbers are trying to get worked out with the Jets, like, that could be true because that contract's, like, probably not really easy to take on.
No, they're going to have to do a lot of restructuring. I personally wouldn't want to be a GM when these type of, trades are happening, because I don't even know how you make something like that work. Packers end up trading Rodgers to the Colts. That would be something. No way he'd want to go to the Colts. Exotic. Go with the Colts. Aaron Rodgers is in love with the attention.
Yes, he is. Sorry, I keep hitting my mic, guys. I hope you guys aren't hearing that.
Packers, we're going to milk every dollar out of the Aaron Rodgers cash cow. Rams, we want to do right by the players, so we'll take the bag of original Lay's chips, the one that mostly feels like Aaron crumbs. Yeah, so about that, that Ramsey trade happened since the last time we went live.
I know. Can you believe it was the Dolphins?
I mean, yes.
I can, only because I was like, I feel like if Ramsey had any say in the trade, it was going to be like a big, like he wasn't going to go to Detroit.
No.
But I feel like he wanted a bigger city, a flashier team. So Miami makes sense.
Yeah. So what I was told is the Rams basically told him a month ago that they were trading him, and they took forever to do it. So Ramsey and his agent kind of got involved and kind of steered him towards the Dolphins, which honestly hurt their chance to get some serious capital. But I think that's because the Rams took too long. I don't hold anything against Ramsey for trying to force this. When you're told that you're basically not a part of the plan, month ago, that's what that's about. And I think, people are really quick to be like, oh, well, he was praying to get out of here. That's not what happened. He wanted to stay. He wanted to be in LA. He never wanted to leave. He at one point was quoted saying, like, he hopes there's a statue outside of SoFi, of him. So, like, clearly the guy had plans long term to be in LA. But what ended up happening was the Rams did not add any sort of guarantees to the back end of his deal. Ramsey leaves. And or Ramsey is no longer, interested in staying, because they're told, they're telling him that they're not going to basically show him that they care about him. So long term anyway. So he asked to go to Miami, which is where his family is. He played football in that state in college. Obviously, he played Jacksonville. So yeah, he's back in the state of Florida, and I think a lot of players want to go there because it's tax free. It's a lot more money that you're keeping than say in LA or New York or some of those other big markets. So yeah, I have nothing against it, and I'm rooting for him. And I saw him at the Miami Heat game, and good for him.
Yeah, I'm happy for him that he's ending up in a situation that he wanted, and that, that they're going to be competitors next season. So he's going to have a chance to contribute to a playoff team, if everything goes their way. But yeah, it's obviously bittersweet, because as Rams fans, it's like, oh God, we're going to miss like seeing him every Sunday with our team. But it's the way it goes. I think, it speaks to the Rams' bigger situation, right? Like the Rams are in a stressful situation, as are the fans, because we're the ones watching it. But
yeah, it's not ideal. I mean, I guess we kind of had an idea something like this would happen, but I think people had the idea that it would happen in a way like, okay, the Rams, it's going to be a new look Rams team this year, but it's going to be because they want to be competitive, and they're going to overreact, and they're going to get rid of key players, but get in more key players, just different players, right? But instead, it's been like, I mean, you can't tell me that this team wants to win a Super Bowl in 2023. You can't.
Well, also in terms of getting free, one, the Rams really don't have any money to get any free agents. So
no, they don't.
That's the first problem. The second problem is like, looking at the Rams, if you're a player maybe willing to take like a really cheap deal or something, it kind of looks like a sinking ship from afar. I mean, truthfully, you're seeing all these trades, you're seeing all these releases. You saw what happened last year. You look at like the cap situation, and I think it probably is driving free agents away. The very few that we could even afford anyway. So that's kind of the problem. I think that's why the Rams really have to have a good draft, or it might not be a fun season.
They have to literally nail the draft, as this is probably the most important draft since 2010 when they took Sam Bradford #1 overall. I mean, it is probably on that level. I believe they took Saffold in the second round that year too. It was a good draft. Bradford had his injuries and whatnot, but it wasn't a bad draft. 2017, you could argue like that was really important and they nailed it. All right. So I think it's as important as 2010, which is probably the most important draft, the most recent, most important draft for the Rams because they picked #1. So it's as important as 2010, but they need to hit on it like 2017. Like they need to find Cooper Kupp. They need to find, a John Johnson. They need to find even a Gerald Everett. They need to be able to find guys that can start or fill a role, And I think that's the thing when you look at this team, how they seem to be going all in on the offense and how F them picks has become F them defense players. Like, it's like, F them defense. Like, they're getting rid of all the defensive guys. We did just lose, Nick Scott. He just signed with the Bengals, which is a bummer. He is a good player that they did want back. They just could not afford him. You release Floyd, you release Wagner, you trade Ramsey. Rapp will probably sign in New England. Maybe he'll even sign with the Bengals and, reunite with Scott. But yeah, there's just a lot of moving pieces and moving parts. And, I think when you're focusing all on the offense, that can work out, but you need to be an elite offense for that to work out next year.
That is true. I know it's I don't know. I don't want to jump the gun, I think, with the Rams, especially because, we obviously have like a certain bias towards them. I'm waiting to make my more like thorough comments till after the draft. Because right now I'm kind of like you said, I think we need to nail the draft. I think free agency is pretty much a wrap for us. I really don't know who we could sign of significance based on our cap this year. It's just not looking good. So we'll see. I really hope that they don't just like pull a wild card and like release more players that we're not expecting them to release.
I think they're done. The Note Boom restructure, I don't believe is the only restructure they're doing though. I do think they're restructuring Kupp. That'll save them about $11 million. So they would have some money to go out and maybe get one guy for super cheap. I was kind of bummed, low key, that they didn't go after the Deshaun Elliott out of Texas. He played with the Ravens, and then he played last year with the Lions, and he was cheap. I think $2 million for 1 year. He just signed with Miami. I would have been all over that.
I mean, yeah, safety. If you guys weren't already thinking the Rams were going to target safety in the draft, now would be the time. Next year you probably got Jordan Fuller and Quentin Lake
and Russ East
and
they have Rashard LeCount also on the roster, but those are literally the only safeties on the roster, so they will at least draft a safety, I think. And I mean, you could say the same quarterback. Perkins is probably out the door. They didn't tender him, so now you look at Stafford's the only quarterback on the roster. And I mean, to that end, Alexis, if you're looking at the quarterbacks in this draft, because the Rams are 100% drafting a quarterback. I don't want to hear it anymore. They are drafting one. But who do you think would be in play for the Rams, and how early could the Rams draft one? Because I think they would go as early as second round, but I think third, fourth makes the most sense.
I would say the earliest I would be would be third or fourth, because so this year quarterbacks, I don't really like any quarterbacks outside of the top three personally in terms of starting in the NFL. Now, not to say that others won't be starters. Like I think Hendon Hooker might start in the NFL. I'm not as high on him as a lot of other people are. I don't think he's as safe of a bet. Like I think the obvious top three, you got Stroud, Richardson, Young, in whatever order you have them in. I think those are your best bets. And you got like Levis, Hooker, Jaren Hall I like. Do I think that Jaren Hall is a lock? Probably. I don't know. Probably not. So I think for the Rams, there's a couple guys late. And I think I mentioned this our last show, like Aiden O'Connell out of Purdue, I think is like a solid, like safe backup quarterback. He's not a starting quarterback, but like if the Rams were to draft him, I'd be fine with that. I mean, Stetson Bennett's fun, even though he's like 58 years old. It'd be fun for the Rams to like draft him just because he's shown like the clutchness, right? He's shown the potential. So maybe if he gets in with Sean McVay, like he could, I don't know, be the next Tom Brady surprise. So like that would be fun. But there's no one really that I like in this year's like drafts for the Rams. I'd rather the Rams trade for Matt Corral out of Carolina, have him be the backup, and then draft a quarterback in the 7th round. Like that would be my ideal situation for the Rams at quarterback. And then if it's that bad this year, if it's like really that bad and like it turns to where we're getting a quarterback in 2024, then you could draft one next year. You got a 1st-round pick, and then you can figure it out. But I wouldn't spend a top draft pick on a quarterback this year.
Yeah, so I would go as early as 3rd round. I think 2nd, you have too many needs, so I'm with you on that. I 100% think they got to go edge or interior offensive line. But I do think bringing back Coleman Shelton, they might not have to go interior offensive line super early. But quarterback, yeah, I really like Hendon Hooker, but I think you're going to have to spend a 2nd on him. I just think that's the thing. So if you're not willing to do that, then he's not going to be available for the Rams' next pick. And so with that being said, might be a little early. So, I mean, 4th, 5th round maybe for Jaren Hall, I think is a good bet. I think he would fit what Sean McVay wants in a quarterback. Kind of built a little bit similar to like a Jalen Hurts style quarterback, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, the parts that you want to like about Zach Wilson. And I think that's a guy who, when I was watching the tape, I'm like, he's not a starter day one, but he could be a legit franchise quarterback if developed properly. And I think bringing him into an offense, either Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan or Andy Reid, would secure that. I think he's got to go to an offensive-minded coach who's going to be able to guide him through the process and really get him up to speed. And, I think for that reason, I think Jaren Hall makes a lot of sense. Now, if you're looking for the Tom Brady of this draft, the guy that has like the look and everything, it's Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell is the Tom Brady of this draft. If there's going to be one, he's going to be the guy because he's got the cannon for an arm, right? He's got great arm velocity. Brady was more athletic, I would say, when he was younger. But O'Connell, he can throw him, into a tight window. He makes solid reads, quick decision maker, quick release, can throw the deep ball, and I think he's a little bit, flying under the radar. I think he's built like Brady because, he's a taller, he's a bigger, quarterback. And so I think when you look at like the Tom Brady of the draft, I know people will lean towards whoever. And it's like, like you had mentioned, Stetson Bennett. I don't even think, is Stetson Bennett 6 feet tall? Like, I don't think he would.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? So I'd probably say the guy that you mentioned, Aiden O'Connell, and I'm not saying he'll be Tom Brady, but I'm saying if you're looking at a guy that could be drafted in the 5th or 6th round and make a name for himself, I think it's Aiden O'Connell. I do.
Well, I like Aiden O'Connell, and I like Jaren Hall. Jaren Hall was like, well, as you know, he was like one of the first quarterbacks in this draft that I really watched and liked. I don't know. I think I definitely don't want the Rams to spend a 2nd. Because in my mind, if you're spending a 2nd, like I don't think Hendon Hooker is too good to pass up, right? So I think if you're drafting him in the 2nd round, it shows you're more focused on next year and the year after than you are this year, right? Yeah. I think if you go into the draft in the 2nd round and you take an edge or you take a offensive lineman or a safety or something, it shows that you're ready to compete still this year. If you're wasting your 2nd round pick on a quarterback, it kind of means you have that little doubt in the back of your mind. and you're more focused on the season after the next season. So I'm hoping the Rams don't do that for multiple reasons, but we'll see. I don't think that they will. I don't think they'll take a quarterback in the second.
No, I don't think they're going to take one in the second. And people have asked me, do you see them trading up into the first? I hope they don't. I'll just say that. I'm not going to say I don't see it. I'm just going to say I hope they stay away from trading up into the first round, because I think it would be a waste of assets. You need these picks. You need to hit on most of the picks. I'm not trading an additional third to move up into the first round. I'm not doing it. Nope.
Agree.
So I'll wait until day 2, like you and I have been doing for 4 years now. So
exactly.
I'm good with that. We'll have the first rounder next year. It's all good. What were your thoughts on Stephon Gilmore getting traded to Dallas?
I was a little surprised. I honestly had forgotten that he was even playing with the Colts. I'm so serious. Like, I feel bad saying that, but I was like, saw that he was traded from the Colts to Dallas, and I was like, oh, I have not really thought about him in a while, which sounds really bad, but I think Dallas is they do this thing every year where they just keep trying to find the piece that's going to get them past that playoff curse that they have. They just never, it's like they think everything that isn't the problem is the problem. You know what I mean? I don't know why they're thinking that this trade was, but again, they got really good value for him, so maybe it doesn't matter, right? They got him for a 5th rounder, so I mean, good for them. I don't know that it's gonna fix the problems that I think Dallas has, but
yeah, I think it definitely confirms that they were one of the teams that were in on Ramsey, and the Rams just didn't want to trade to an NFC team. But no, I think Gilmore complements Diggs well. I have no issue with the move at all. Like you said, I mean, the Colts get a 5th rounder out of it, works for them. And, the Cowboys, they're trying to go all in. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say they're an all in type of team. I wouldn't say they're a championship contender, but, that is a division that has gotten very good in a short amount of time. Washington also just added Jacoby Brissette, so we don't know what will happen with them. But what were you saying?
Remember the days when we could just clown the NFC East?
Yeah, that's
they
gone.
were so bad, and it was they went from that to a year later being so good, and it just shows you how quick things can change in the NFL. I mean, look at the Rams, right?
Yeah.
So it's I mean, the Giants, look at the Giants right now. They've made some good signings. They made a good trade, Darren Waller. Who saw that coming? Not me.
Yeah, I know. I could not believe the Giants got Darren Waller. I don't know why the Raiders didn't want to try to make that relationship work, but they didn't. So, he's a top 5 tight end,
I feel like the Raiders always are just slightly off in their judgment.
Oh, you mean trading away Kalil Mack right in the middle of, they just got to the playoffs and they're like, later.
It's they just always pull they tweak something so wrong, and you're where did that come from? The Darren Waller trade. You'd think if you're building, they signed Jacoby Myers, so for a second they had Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, and then they're you know what? Let's trade Darren Waller for a 3rd round pick.
Yeah,
doesn't make sense to me.
A 3rd round pick for a top 5 player at his position is just bizarre. I mean, then again, the Jalen Ramsey trade. We could go on about that. Is there any type of signing, Alexis, that really stood out to you throughout the? I mean, I know Orlando Brown Jr. You're a big fan of the offensive line. I'm sure that was probably something. It stood out to me seeing him go to Cincinnati, and not for as much money as I thought it was going to be. But is there, are there any other signings that really stood out to you?
I mean, everything the Bears have done. I mean, pretty much. which,
they're like skimming off the top. They're like, all right, we'll throw a Robert Tonyan here and a Dante Foreman here. Like, they're not going out like crazy, but they're getting the guys that you put a lot of them together and you put together a solid team.
Yeah, it's like they're really building. So like Tonyan, for example, right? Well, first off, I love that signing for Robert because he's from Chicago. This is where his hometown. But it's like Kmet and him. That's like I think they complement each other very well. I mean, Kmet is obviously your tight end one, and he had a huge year last year. But then, Tonyan is gonna, I think, be productive as tight end number 2, and he's gonna get opportunity. The running back situation is weird to me, but then I was like telling you today, I was like, when you have Justin Fields as your quarterback, you don't really have to think too hard about your run game. Like, you don't have to like go out and get like, because a lot of people thought they were going to go after like Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley, right? If they weren't tagged. But I think with Justin Fields, like, you can go get the Devontae Foreman and the Travis Homer to pair with Kalil Herbert. So it's kind of like they don't need to have the flashy running back room. Then you look at the receiver situation. I still think the Bears might draft a receiver high. I don't know that I'm super sold. I mean, right now you've got DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, and Darnell Mooney as your 3, which is solid. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a good group. Then you got St. Brown as your 4, the Velus Jones Jr., but I don't know. Smith from Ohio State. What's his name? Smith.
From Ohio State. Oh, are you?
Yeah, Jackson
Smith Njigba.
Yes, Njigba.
I don't even know how the hell. Yeah, it's. I don't even know.
I haven't watched tape on him because I'll be honest, the only tape I've watched this year are of people that the Rams can take. So when I'm looking at
it's a receiver. I mean, at this point,
but he's not going like.
No, he's not.
He's going to be gone by the time.
No, they're going to take Tank Dell. We know it.
Probably, but anyway, so I could see him going to the Bears. But like the Bears signed, I liked Trayman Edmonds and guy from the Eagles. Shoot.
Oh, Edwards, right?
Yeah, T.J. Edwards. I mean, I thought those were good. So the Bears, I think that they're not getting anyone flashy, but they don't need to. They had $100 million in cap space, and I think they're filling the holes, and they have a ton of draft picks. So I'm excited for them. But yeah, I'd say Nate Davis they signed at guard, who we interviewed back in the day, when he was getting drafted. So yeah, I think pretty much anyone that the Bears have signed, I've been impressed with.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're having a pretty solid. I think they're having a pretty solid offseason. I saw the Giants brought back Darius Slayton. You add him to. You went out and got Paris Campbell. There's a lot of speed in that receiver room for Daniel Jones. I like that the Jets got Wes Schweitzer that was just announced. Minshew's going to the Colts. So there's. It hasn't been a rowdy free agency. We'll just say that. But like Glasgow going back to the Lions is kind of cool. But yeah, there hasn't been like big ticket, signings for the most part. We did get one of the biggest signings. I will 100% command a 3rd round compensatory pick. And that was Javon Hargrave, who is going to the 49ers. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, anytime the 49ers get talent like that, I'm not thrilled about it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was a little surprised because at first I was thinking that the 49ers had a interior defensive lineman.
They do, and I guess they're just out on Javon Kinlaw from what I was reading.
Well, right, but he's still technically he's not even a free agent, right?
Yeah, they're just going to probably trade him at this point, Do
you think they do an in-division trade?
No.
Probably not. They probably won't help us out. I like Kinlaw, so I'm surprised. But that's what I'm saying. I was just surprised because it's like, I don't know, but now you're...
Yeah, there have been some weird Here's one thing I want to bring up. I don't really think the compensatory pick formula is great. I'm not really a huge fan of it. But they got a third for Jimmy Garoppolo, and it got canceled out because they got Hargrave. Was that worth it in the end to spend 20-something million on a defensive lineman that in reality you didn't need? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Hargrave's pretty good.
He's fantastic.
But because it's the 49ers and their situation, like he has Kinlaw. So that's why it's weird to me.
I love this comment. Did you see that when he went on Grant Cohn's live stream?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
He comes on Downtown Rams and he's trying to throw hands at us. I kid. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong to us. So, like, you know, I just thought it was funny. They also got Isaiah Oliver because, of course, that was a great pickup. They also got Sam Darnold. And I'll say this right now. If Sam Darnold ends up being something because he's with Kyle Shanahan, I would not be surprised.
It's Kyle Shanahan. Of course he is. He's going to come in for whoever their quarterback is. You know, Trey Lance is going to get injured again. And then Brock Purdy's going to come back and get injured. And Sam Darnold's going to go in there and like break every record that you can break and lead the 49ers to a Super Bowl. I mean, I hope not as a Rams fan, but like, it's so annoying watching them just like do that all the time.
So where's Allen Robinson going?
I would like to package him in a deal to Carolina for Matt Corral. Does that count?
That would be interesting. They said
not straight up 1-for-1, but like package.
Well, they said Matt could be had for like relatively cheap. Like we're talking 6th or 7th round, and the Rams have a lot of those late round picks.
But do you think anyone's giving a 3rd through 5th round pick for Allen Robinson?
No, I think what you need to understand when you're trading Allen Robinson, you're trading the contract. So you're not going to be able to get like a really good pick. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams just settled for a pick next year. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams trade him post June 1st and get a pick next year. That's kind of where I'm at. But I think we're going to see something soon on that front. You know, he's not going to play with the Rams. I don't think he wanted to leave, but I don't know. Why would he want to stay? You know, it's like it doesn't seem like this is not the team he signed up to play for. You know, fighting for a Super Bowl to run it back. He wanted to be a part of that. You know, this is a team that has shown, hey, like we want to get rid of this contract. I don't know why Allen Robinson would want to stay for that. So, yeah, I mean,
I think that they're going to I think that they'll be able to trade him to a team. I mean, at this point, if it's about the contract, why don't you just trade him away for like a 7th? And then it's like,
that's the thing, you know,
then trade the 7th for picks in the future, right? I mean, if we already have all these late round picks, I would just take the pick and then take that pick during the draft and then trade it away for future picks.
So Fernando says, or the Colts. He's going to the Falcons or the Colts. The Colts right now, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., Ashton Doolin. I don't see the fit there. I think there are too many Allen Robinson type of guys. Alec Pierce is a big-bodied receiver. Michael Pittman's a big-bodied receiver. And then you want your slot receiver, which I could see them upgrading the slot, but you're not going to get Allen Robinson to do that. And then in Atlanta, you know, that becomes, you know, incredibly interesting there because, you know, you look and you're like, if they were to bring in Allen Robinson, it'd be him and Drake London. But there's so many guys that are free agents. You talk about Demir Bird and Olamide Zaccheaus and Kaderil Hodge. Frank Darby's their 6th round pick from 2021. Like, in my opinion, I do think that's somewhat of a fit. You know, you have.
I was just about to say that makes sense because they have the cap. The Falcons had the 2nd largest cap behind the Bears.
Les Snead is from Atlanta. That's where the Rams got him from. So he does make those trades with Atlanta.
And the Falcons, I could see them trading for Allen Robinson and then taking a receiver in like the 2nd or 3rd still. Because they're so low. I mean, they're literally so low on receivers. So yeah, I would say the Falcons probably make a lot of sense for Allen Robinson. Maybe what about the Titans? Because we trade with them a lot, and they released Robert Woods. And who do they have now other than Traylon Burks?
Well, I don't think they would be in play because they were trying to get rid of that money with Robert Woods. It would just be like taking on more of that money. They don't, and
sense.
they also, I mean, should they really trust us at this point? Like, we gave them Robert Woods, and it just didn't really go the way they wanted to. I'm not saying it was Woods' fault. New England could be interesting. I know they added Juju. Aguilar's a free agent. They have Parker. But I don't know. They're an option, I guess. I mean,
I think New England's going to try to get Hopkins. But you know what's weird about New England is like they get all these receivers, but like what are they doing at quarterback? I think they should give Mac Jones one more year, personally. I think they should give him a full season, but it's like a make it or break it season for him. And then if it doesn't work out, then you go draft somebody next year. But I feel like you spent a first round pick on him, and for a while he was really hot.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they kind of gave up on him really quickly, but it might be because of the attitude, personality things that have come out about him. I don't know.
But, yeah. I mean, what about the Dolphins if they could afford it? I mean, I know that sounds funny because they just took Ramsey, but they don't have anybody in that receiver. You could argue Eric Azukanma from last year, 4th rounder, Cedric Wilson, Braxton Berrios, but I don't know. You add a guy like Allen Robinson, that diversifies your receiver room because now you have a jump ball, go up and get it guy, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waller are your speed threats. And I'm not saying that they both can't be deep ball guys, but I'm talking about guys that can go up and high point the football and box out defenders like we expected Robinson, and like he did when he was utilized. He just wasn't utilized very often in the Rams offense. I wouldn't be against bringing him back either. But they're not going to bring back that contract. They've already made it very clear by making the moves that they've made that they're not going to keep this contract on the books. They're going to get rid of it. So I don't know. It sucks because like, I feel like Robinson is being tossed around like he's just some piece of meat, but I mean, I think he deserves more respect. It's just the Rams are in this position, it's like now I don't really know why they signed him to that deal if they planned on doing this at some point, but maybe they didn't plan on doing this year. Maybe the season that they had really put them in this position where they felt like, all right, time to blow it up, but I don't know. It definitely sucks. Robinson going back to potentially the Packers because he was going to sign with them and then decided to sign with the Bears. That would be interesting, but why would he go there without Rodgers? I don't think he would, even though I think Jordan Love is probably going to have a solid season, and I think people are sleeping on him a little bit. And I'm not sold on Jordan Love, but I think he'll be a solid quarterback. I don't know if Robinson makes as much sense to the Packers now that Rodgers is gone. I don't know what you think about that.
I don't think it makes any. I don't think many receiving threats are going to want to go to the Packers until they see what Jordan Love is like in a full season.
It's a wait and see.
It pains me because I think Michael Mayer is going to get drafted by the Packers, and I'm really hoping it works out with the quarterback because if it doesn't, then he's going to have his whole rookie season and not be thrown to. Or not be on a very good offense. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
They still have DeGuara there. I think that's the only one.
Yeah, just him.
So, what about the Chiefs? If they don't get Odell, if they don't get DeAndre Hopkins, which I don't think they're doing, what if the Chiefs were like?
Chiefs could make sense because I think Robinson would be willing to. Well, he doesn't have a no trade clause, but I think that he could get excited about going to the Chiefs. I mean, everybody wants to go to the Chiefs now. Right?
Yeah.
So that might lessen the blow a little bit if you're getting traded there. I just don't know that the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs might draft somebody. Like I think the Chiefs are going to draft Jalen Hyatt.
I mean, that would be lethal.
Insane. Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. And I'm exactly. So I don't know that the Chiefs are going to want to take on that contract and that receiver.
I will say, for the guys that I do like on that, like I do like Kadarius Toney and I like Sky Moore. I don't love Sky Moore. I like Kadarius Toney. I don't really love any of the receivers. I think Marquez Valdez-Scantling is just a bad contract. Amir Smith-Marset I like. I think he's got some potential. And I know they signed John Ross, who some people were somewhat excited about for whatever reason. I think that if you had a guy like Allen Robinson with Patrick Mahomes, that would be disgusting. Because you could just throw it up there and just be like, all right, Allen Robinson's out there somewhere. You know, I mean, the big thing with him last year that people just fail to understand, it's not the separation. The guy never created a ton of separation in his career. The fact is, the Rams didn't use him. Like, they really just didn't throw to him. But yeah, so that answers that question. If the Chiefs somehow use all of their players, it's so weird. That's also true.
I think that's a Mahomes thing, though.
I agree.
Because he's always moving around, and he'll throw to anybody. I mean, he can make it work.
Jody Fortson for a touchdown. You're like, what? Exactly. And especially if you're an anytime touchdown better, you're like, you got to be kidding me right now. Mm-hmm. Jody Fortson. Do you think Hopkins is going to get traded?
Yeah.
And where do you think he goes?
I think he goes to the Patriots, but
you do. Okay.
If it's not the Patriots, I'm trying to think of who would have. I mean, you're going to get at least a second-round pick for Hopkins, right? I mean, trying to think of who has multiple picks. I mean, the Bears, that would be insanity. But if that was the case, I think the Bears would need to release N'Keal Harry and St. Brown. I just don't know that they really need Hopkins. I don't know that they'd make that trade, but I'm trying to think of who else has multiple second-round picks. I can't at the moment.
I don't know. Hopkins, man, that's a big name. He came back, he played well. And if you're saying he's gone from the Cardinals, which, I mean, the Cardinals are going to be a dumpster fire. They might pick number 1 overall. I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know where he's going to go.
It just seems like things have soured with him in the Cardinals.
Yeah. Another trade candidate, because Alex Madison got his contract. Not big, 2 years, $7 million with the Vikings. I don't know if that's screaming to me that he's going to be the starter. 2 years, $7 million doesn't seem like, hey, we want you to carry our backfield. But there's all this talk about, Dalvin Cook getting traded. Do you think that happens? And if so, where do you think he goes?
I don't think it happens. But if it does happen, I could see the Eagles, even though I don't think they would want to trade him the NFC. The Eagles just lost Miles Sanders, and they signed Rashad Penny. And
so they always hurt.
Yeah, so they basically have Penny and Boston Scott and Gainwell, who I like, but do I think those three could use? I don't know that any of those three are a true starting running back. Dalvin Cook is obvious, and Dalvin Cook is also just a different type of running back than those guys. I think he's a lot better. So I could see maybe the Eagles. People were saying the Bills, but like, I don't know, why do the Bills, I feel like the Bills always have like decent running backs, and they're always trying to replace Singletary. Like, why? James Cook, Dalvin Cook's brother, is on the Bills, and he is good. And I don't know why the Bills still always talk about going out and getting more running backs, but it might be cool if Dalvin and James Cook were on the same team. But they also have Hines. Like, if you're going to trade for Dalvin, then you need to trade those other guys first or after. I don't know. I think the Vikings will keep him, though.
Yeah.
Personally.
The Bills frustrate me with the running backs because it's they're think about how awesome it would be to have James Cook as the third option behind Cam and Kyron, having that breakaway speed. I mean, he complements the backfield so well, and he showed you he was honestly the best back at the end of the year. The way he was running at the end of the year, but also Singletary has been really good, and I think he kind of gets underrated. And I just have this suspicion that they're going to end up drafting Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's going to annoy me because, like you, I don't understand why this team obsesses over running backs. I mean, then again, they traded a star linebacker at the time for LaShawn McCoy, so I guess, it's not like anything we haven't seen before, but you know what I mean? It's just like, it is bizarre. Like you brought it up, but it is bizarre how they're so obsessed. And they don't run the ball either. Exactly. Bills, but they don't run the ball. Buffalo dislikes running the ball. But why do they obsess with running backs?
I know. That's what doesn't make sense to me. It's like, do they just feel that FOMO?
I mean,
like they just want to have a good running back, but they don't want to use him. That's why it's like, I don't see why it would make sense for them to trade for Dalvin Cook, but they're interested according to reports.
Yeah, I don't get it. And like another to your point and another point, they have all these running backs and yet they force Josh Allen to run like 15 times a game. I don't understand it. I really don't. I would like to see Josh Allen this year. If the Bills really want to take the next step and they want to, go to a Super Bowl and win it, Josh Allen needs to play more like Patrick Mahomes. He needs to use his legs to create with his arm. I think he runs way too much and he's going to get himself killed. I really believe that. And I think, in some cases, I think he's kind of put them in a position, not to fail, but he's put them in rough positions. And I thought in 2021, I thought the opposite. I thought Mahomes kind of put, the Chiefs in bad positions at times. You look at the Bengals game, throwing that interception to basically cost him the game. To me, I felt like Mahomes was careless with the football in the AFC title game to go to the Super Bowl against the Rams. And I saw Josh Allen, and Allen was taking better care of the ball. But this past year, Alexis, I felt like Allen kind of reverted back to his old ways. And so I would like to see them have more of a balanced attack as a football fan. Not a Bills fan, obviously. I'm not a Bills fan. But as a football fan, I would like to see them go with more of a balanced attack.
I agree.
And, I mean, they have the talent. Diggs took that was also another interesting one. So he restructured. So I guess he's going to be around because there was all sorts of rumors after losing, is he going to get traded? Is he going to ask for a trade? Does he want out? And it appears that's not the case. Jamal Williams scored 18 touchdowns this past year, which was a franchise record. It netted him $4 million per year at the running back position. 3-year deal with the Saints. He's going to be the new Mark Ingram to Alvin Kamara. How do you feel about it?
Interested.
I think I don't know. It's like, I felt bad.
It's interesting.
I felt bad because it's like $4 million a year. Like that's what 17 touchdowns is worth. And you can say what you will. All those touchdowns came within the 5-10 yard line, whatever. But he punched it in. How many times have we talked about guys who don't have a nose for the end zone, can't actually put the ball in the end zone? I don't know. That's a skill.
I just felt like he had a chance to be like a true starter somewhere, personally.
And he chose not to be.
And he chose not to be on a team that I don't think is going to do anything next year.
You're not high on the Saints?
I'm not. No, I'm not. And I'm not saying like maybe they'll make the playoffs, but like if I'm Jamal Williams and I'm making that decision, I would be doing it somewhere like the Eagles. And like for that contract, he could have gone to the Eagles, and the Eagles are going to go way farther than the Saints next year. Way more talented of a roster, in my opinion. So
they might not have been interested, though.
They might not have been interested, but I'm just using them as an example. Like, no, I just feel like he had to have had offers from better teams. And again, this only makes sense if he was going to be the true star, unless he thinks something's going to happen with Alvin Kamara and, he's in legal trouble and maybe they are like, he might not play next season. Then that would be different. But I just don't, it's just puzzling.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I mean, that could definitely have come into play. The Steelers released Miles Jack and then paid Cole Holcomb $6 million a year over 3 years. I'm not saying he's a bad football player, but he's had a hard time staying healthy, and I wouldn't say he's better than Miles Jack. What say you?
I agree.
Yeah,
I was very confused that they released Miles Jack, honestly.
I was too. And then Byron Murphy signing with the Minnesota Vikings. Very good move, I think. Very, very underrated, not being talked about enough. The Vikings, they're building a good defense, I think, around Brian Flores.
I agree, and I like Byron Murphy. And now I can cheer for him now that he's not in our division anymore.
That's true. So, I mean, really, like there've been some moves. Quarterbacks. I mean, I mentioned Brissette earlier, $8 million contract with Washington. Baker takes a $4 million deal with Tampa. There have been quarterbacks getting picked up. Not a ton of quarterbacks, so to speak, but right now we're down to the final 2 quarterbacks in free agency that I believe are 25 and under. Bryce Perkins and Brett Rippon. That's it. So that pool of quarterbacks emptied out pretty darn quickly.
Where do you think Bryce Perkins goes?
So it's weird because Nick Mullins just signed a 2-year, $4 million deal with Minnesota, but I'm still going to say Minnesota. I think KOC really likes him. He told us, when he came on our show, he had meetings with Kevin O'Connell during the process, and that's kind of how, he knew that he was going to go there when he became a undrafted free agent. I don't know. They've already made an attempt in the past to try to get him. I think the Vikings are going to end up with Bryce Perkins, and it's a shame because I would like to see him back with the Rams, but I think he's gone.
I think he's gone, and I might be wrong about this because I haven't looked at the Lions depth chart yet, but I kind of was wondering if he would go to the Lions.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you got to think about it too with Goff. I mean, who do you have behind Goff, really? If you don't.
Well, they had Tim Boyle, but pretty sure they released him, and the other guy retired, right?
Yeah, so you don't have anybody, right?
Well, yeah, nobody. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm like,
Sudfeld, he was a free agent, so you don't have anybody. And I think every team essentially wants to have that running quarterback, a guy with legs to be able to emulate what a running quarterback is going to bring on game days. If he's working with the scout team, Wolford did it, Perkins did it. So I think he does have that value as well. Yeah, I think the Lions, I think they make sense. I do.
That's where I think he's going to go. You know who feels like a Lions draft pick too?
Who's that?
Kind of Aiden O'Connell. Does it not feel like that would be interesting, having him behind Goff?
So it's funny you say that because my player comparison for him was Jared Goff.
Right. I agree.
So,
like that feels like, because Goff, I think, is in stride right now, but I think you have O'Connell behind him, and in 3 or 4 years, it would be easy for him, in my opinion, to take over that offense. If he pans out, like he might not, but.
Yeah, Alex, apparently, I don't know what the deal is on that. I saw people freaking out on Twitter about him. We don't really know what's going on. But he didn't have his presser today like he was supposed to have. And when that does happen, when they go in to have the contract and everything, they always have the presser after. It's kind of like you bang it all out at once. And, he didn't do that. So there are people that are wondering if it fell apart due to maybe a failed physical, which is certainly possible. But yeah, that just something to monitor. I mean, I can't imagine this deal is going to completely fall through. That would be really stupid to make that big of a stance early on in free agency. That was one of the first moves, Alexis, that was announced, was Jimmy Garoppolo to the Raiders. You have the familiarity with him and with McDaniels, It would just be
Vegas
a really
Jimmy.
bad look. But then again, McDaniels is kind of a really bad look. So
He is, and you can never trust. And that's also part of the reason why I don't think, and again, like we established earlier, it's actually not really technically up to Aaron, but I don't think Aaron would like be dying to play with McDaniels.
I don't know who would assign. Like, I think
I don't
people
even think-
overrate Tom Brady. When it comes to McDaniels, I don't think Tom Brady's obsessed with McDaniels.
I think Tom Brady is. I mean, he's shown that he can do it with pretty much anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
So it's like
yeah.
not. I don't even think a reflection on McDaniels.
Yeah, and he's not coming back this year. I don't know why I still keep seeing that. Oh, well, now that they got Ramsey, they're going to package Tua and go out and get Brady. No. They're not doing that. It's not happening.
Mm-mm.
What do you think about Baker going to Tampa, though?
That's kind of where I thought we talked about it, I think, last week. That's kind of where I was thinking he was going to go, and it makes sense. I think he's going to beat out Kyle Trask.
Pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably why he went there. I mean, it's pretty much an opportunity. And, he's going to have, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Cade Otton kind of started coming into his own. They did lose Fournette.
Rashad White, though.
Rashad White, and I actually have lately developed a theory that the Bucs are going to draft Bijan Robinson.
Wow.
I really think that.
That would,
if he's there.
Oh,
but
okay.
Could you imagine? Because then you've got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Bijan Robinson, Cade Otton, Rashad White. I mean, you're starting to get like a solid offense there. Now you just have to rely on Baker.
That's
how's
true.
he going to pan out?
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this, because I know a lot of Rams fans wanted Baker. That 1-year deal keeps him still in, he's still in sight for the Rams. If, anything happens to Stafford next year, they'll have cap space and they could go after Baker. I'm not saying that's what they should do. I'm saying that, the 1-year deal makes it possible. That was the first thought I had, is that it's a 1-year deal. He's going to be able to test the market again next year. It works out for him. He gets to potentially likely start. It's like we're dogging on Kyle Trask, but come on now. Oh, okay. We're not dogging as much as Nolan over here. He says, I can beat out Kyle Trask for starter. Hey, Jake, should the Rams try to trade for Jerry Jeudy? So sounds to me like they're looking for a first rounder. So I would say absolutely not. The Rams don't have a first rounder, so I don't think that they would even make the trade. But if they did, they'd probably be like a second, a third, and then next year's first or whatever. This is probably what they would ask. I would stay away from making any of those trades. I really would. I would continue to try to fill out my roster and, 36 overall. If there's not anybody you absolutely love, trade down. Trade down, get more picks. That's where I'm at with them. I wouldn't trade for Jerry Jeudy. I wouldn't sign Ezekiel Elliott. I wouldn't trade for Hopkins. I wouldn't make any big move. I would wait until next year, personally. I don't know where you're at on that, but
no, I wouldn't personally trade for him. No.
Not saying Jerry Jeudy's a bad player. I just, there's a reason why these guys are getting traded and such too. Like, you can find value, but I think if the Rams get anybody, I think it would probably be Odell. Like, if they're going to get anybody, I think it would be Odell. That's the big splash that I think that they would make, that they'd be able to justify and kind of sell the fan base on. Like, we brought Odell back. Can't you see that? I can totally see them doing that. I don't know how they would do it. They would probably have to get Odell to agree on, a really cheap deal at the beginning. So he gets a cheap deal. They throw guaranteed money his way in 2024 and 2025. And you sign him to a 3-year deal, 2 years with an opt-out. So he gets to opt out his 3rd year. That's probably how you would get him.
I agree.
you'd have to give him guaranteed money or he's not going to take that. So
I think the Rams are very much in play for Odell if he's willing to take a cheaper deal, which I don't know if that's the case or not.
yeah. And let's be honest here. If like Rodgers is a done deal with the Jets and the Jets want Odell, is he coming back to the Rams to maybe make the playoffs, or is he going to the Jets to try to win Super Bowl?
Probably the Jets.
And that would probably, I mean, he wants a multi-year deal, but I don't know. If I'm Odell, I sign a 2-year deal with the Jets, and then I figure things out. I hit the market again, and I figure things out. I play with Rodgers for 2 years. I increase my value, and then I go and figure things out. That's what I would do. I wouldn't sign like a long deal. I would not sign a 4-year or 5-year. I'd sign a 2-year with, heavy, whether it's incentives or heavy guarantees or whatever. And then I would bounce, and then, I would find another place to go to. So any final thoughts before we wrap this show up? We're over an hour now.
I don't. Just that it's been a crazy week of free agency, but I think it's only going to get crazier because there's still so many free agents that are unsigned. That by next week we'll have a whole new slew of crazy trades to sort through.
Yeah. I mean, we still gotta see about Allen Robinson. We gotta see about DeAndre Hopkins. Jerry Jeudy is probably going to get traded, I would imagine. So a lot of trades that are incoming, and then we have draft trades that we'll have the night of. So I don't know. It's a lot, but I'm excited about that. So, I think that's gonna do it until next week. And everyone enjoy the rest of your week in March Madness.
It's gonna be madness.
It will.
Northern Kentucky's hanging in there right now with Houston.
Are they really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that game on, so
they're down by 4, but they've been competitive.
Okay, all right.
So,
yeah,
madness.
It can happen. We already saw Arizona go down with a 15 seed,
and I put money on a Princeton money line, so that was great for me.
Yeah, and we mentioned Alec Pierce earlier, talking about the Colts, and that was Alec Pierce's brother to hit the go-ahead free throws. It's funny. What a small world of sports. But anyway, that's going to do it for us. Appreciate you guys. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to subscribe to Alexis' channel if you haven't already. It is Alexis Craft. If you can't find it, the link is in the description. But if you can't find it, just search it on YouTube. You'll be able to find it. And I did create a channel for a football show. It's also streaming there. So if you want to, subscribe to that, we'd appreciate it. That's going to do it for us. We'll be back next week. And you guys take care. Later, folks.